Welcome to the Susan Sheehan Podcast. This is Susan. How are you? How are you doing today? I'm the host of the Susan Sheehan Podcast, and up until this time, with the exception of one wonderful woman, I have been doing this solo, and I have loved it. But it's time to evolve. So while I've been sharing up to now my own experience, and I hope sharing some useful information or experiences and stories of my own, and some that have been shared with me as well, it's time for the podcast to evolve. And I have a deep desire and longing to invite other women to share their stories. And there's a couple of places this is coming from. One in particular is I still find myself saying, how did I not know that? Having an experience and then mentioning it to somebody and they're going, yeah, that's happened to me too. And I'm like, did you not think to tell me this? Did nobody think to share this with me? That's one place where it's coming from. And that has always been a key driver or desire for me for the podcast, to learn to know what I didn't know, right? And most of it was wishing, I wish I could have had this knowledge earlier. Or certainly, I'm really glad to have it now, and therefore I want to share it, right? So that's one perspective, because sometimes when we're in the dark about things, sometimes it's harder to get out of it. Whereas if we know, or we can recall, I heard this someplace, or I heard this on some podcast, or a friend told me this, or a friend listened to it on something else, and you're like, and you're going through something and you're having an experience, and it might be happy, it might be sad, it might be challenging, it might be whatever it is, that you're like, oh, I've heard about this, and I know maybe that I'm not alone, that you're not alone, that you will come out of it, that you will come through it. Maybe there's a few steps to it. Knowing that maybe dozens, hundreds, thousands of women have done this before you, that's very, very, it's a soothing balm to the soul when we're going through life experiences. So that's one place where the desire is to evolve the podcast. The second is I really want to hear from other women. I really want to sit down and share with you stories from other women, from the most extraordinary women, ordinary women having the most extraordinary experiences. Both. They're ordinary, they're extraordinary, and they're ordinary women. Like me, like you. And so I am in the midst of evolving the podcast into inviting women. So I'm inviting you also, if you wish to share your story, or you know a woman who wishes to share her story. And this will be very inclusive. It will be any woman that has gone through something that has changed her life, changed your perspective. Maybe it is divorce. Maybe it is long-term illness. Maybe it's a fertility journey. Maybe it's a journey of loss and of grief and of love and of whatever it is. And what we're going to do is we're going to inspire each other. We're going to empower each other by sharing our story, so that the woman that is telling her story, and she can read it out, she can tell it, she can say it in song, she can say it via a poem. We'll be sharing it in various different ways, as if we're sitting down together. And the idea is that we empower each other, that she will empower me and you, and that we inspire each other, and that she is seen and heard, and that we also feel seen and heard in her and in her story, because she is us and we are her. We're never alone, and we all have this shared experience. And I think we're really missing this by life is so busy now and so isolated as well. And by that I mean, like, the vast majority of us are not living in tighter communities or gathering every day or even every week in circle. And I'm not even referring to women's circles. I'm referring to like sitting down and baking together or hanging out together or, I don't know, making the flour together or sewing together. Everything that we used to do for generations, for centuries of years, that women used to do together. And we used to chat about these things. We used to naturally just share these stories. We used to sit down and these stories would be shared and giggled about and cried with and hugged and giving each other compassion and just being there for each other and hearing the stories, like really listening to these stories that they're getting lost. And a big part of it, if you listen to the podcast, the episode last week was about being seen and heard. And I think there's something deeply needed for healing, for the planet, for the next generation, for our children, for our families, for our partners, in expressing and speaking to these stories. And there's another thing I suppose that's prompting this as well, is for long enough women haven't been able to speak, especially when it comes to our own bodies and our own decision making around our future and about what's the expectations around us, and so much has changed. And I'd like to give a voice. I'd like to give a voice here on the Susan Sheehan Podcast. And it's where your voice matters. And I want you to be heard. And so I have put some invitations out, just put some feelers out to a few women to get us started. And I'd really like you to share this invitation to yourself and to any woman you might know. I have there's some women that I love hearing from. And they're all big names and we've all heard of them and they're all doing amazing work. But they're almost, they're really well known or they're famous, whatever that means. I'm using inverted commas here. I'm also really hoping I'm recording this on video. Like Gwyneth Paltrow, Oprah, Mel Robbins, like there's loads of women doing incredible things. But I really want to hear from the women that are like me and like you. And so if you have a story to tell, a story where there has been you've gone through something, there's been you've been in one place and you've moved to another place, and the journey is not finished, because we're never finished until our body passes, or our body stays actually, and our soul goes back to where it came from, or on to the next place. I've lost my thread, and that will happen too. We're ordinary women sharing our stories. That's what I really want. Ordinary women sharing their extraordinary stories to inspire and empower each other. Storytelling at its best. So that's what I wanted to say. If this frightens the bejesus out of you, great. Like, I think if I only invite on the women that are used to talking and used to telling a story, they're very welcome. But I really want to hear from the woman that is, and if this is you, and it really scares you, there's a bit of fear there, there's a bit of vulnerability there, there's, oh my goodness, I don't know if I can get this out, like I don't know if I can voice or be heard or be seen, then I would love for you to be witnessed. I would love for you to be given this opportunity to share your story. And as I say, it can be in any format. And we'll keep it to within half an hour. And it might be 15 minutes. It might be 20 minutes. I think we'll keep it around no more than half an hour. And if you want to share it via a poem, or you want to write it down, or actually you want to send it in to me and you want me to read it out, I can do that also. Or if you only want to share your first name, I also respect that. So that's it. That's how it's evolving. I'm hoping to have the first one with you for next week, and that we will keep it running, and we'll just see how it goes. My feel is that we'll hear from 13 women, and then we'll see what happens next. All is welcome. All is welcome. Let's shine the light on each other and let you be heard. I'd love to hear you. Thank you.